is where he resides. Hunting them at the far reaches of the Earth and beyond.
In 2016, id Software reintroduced the world to a modern reimagining of one of the most iconic video games ever made. Doom was held up as an example of how to channel the spirit of what made the original so groundbreaking, while completely revolutionizing almost every aspect of the experience. And so when Bethesda announced at E3 2018 it will be following up with a sequel, many questions were asked about how it could improve on such a successful first entry. After spending around 20 hours working my way through the main story campaign, I'm glad to tell you that not only have id successfully lived up to Doom 2016's lofty heights, but they've managed to surpass them in almost every way this time around. Just briefly before we get started, a big thanks to Bethesda for providing early review code. There were some mild gameplay spoilers ahead, but I have tried to avoid showing boss fights or late game cutscenes here. With that out of the way, I'm James, this is Invicta Gaming, and this is the world of Doom Eternal. In many ways, Doom Eternal picks up where it left off. We're treated to a brief cutscene showing a very serious looking Doomslayer and plonked right back into the action. The demonic landscapes of hell, however, have gotten quite the facelift. The familiar dungeons filled with fire and chains and all manner of horrors make a return, but these eventually give way to a much wider, open feeling space. Gothic structures loom large over dark castles, and there's a medieval, almost Bloodborne-esque vibe in parts. There's just something about the atmosphere id have put together here that feels like an instant step up from its already very atmospheric predecessor. And there's also a greater variety of environments, from snow-covered Arctic levels to earthly hellscapes where banks and shopping malls burn in lakes of lava. Doom Eternal is anything but subtle, however, its consistently creative level design always managed to surprise me with just how many iterations of imagine this, but in hell, the game came up with. Now, that's just the setting would be nothing without the gameplay, so let's get down to brass tacks. Let's talk about the combat. When it's firing on all cylinders, Doom has a flow state and game feel that is just absolutely flawless. There's no other way to say it, id are masters of the genre, and they have honed their craft such at this point they're basically in a league of their own when it comes to first-person shooters. Weapons not only feel fantastic to shoot, but there's a depth and variety here that far surpasses what we saw with 2016's Doom. The guns, the weapon mods, the increased mobility of the Slayer, all tied together to work in perfect synchronicity. Now, you've probably heard talk by now of the hotly anticipated grappling hook shotgun, and I am happy to report that yes, it is every bit as good as it sounds. The grappling hook is just one of many alternative firing modes that you can equip to your weapons that will act as a sort of special ability. For instance, the heavy cannon, which is sort of akin to a machine gun, can be modified to fire missile barrages, which when aimed at weak spots can cause devastating damage. Ammo runs out quickly, but don't worry. The Doomslayer is equipped with a chainsaw that will slice through demons, causing a loot shower of ammunition to drop everywhere at the push of a button, as long as you've got fuel. This feels particularly satisfying during the hyper-fast combat, where you'll shoot one guy with a rocket launcher, maybe shotgun grapple into another dude's face, and finally spin round to chainsaw an unsuspecting zombie into multiple pieces. It's just excellent. The TLDR is that id understand how to make blowing things to smithereens feel the best that it ever has, and Doom Eternal is no exception. Everybody's favourite glory kills are back, this time with even more inventive close-up ways to dispatch enemies with your bare hands or gloves. These include ripping demons' eyes from their sockets and jamming them into their open mouths seconds before they explode in a flurry of guts and brains. Nice. Animations have been tweaked for maximum effect, with a little bit of camera wobble upon impact, and it's these small details that litter every crevice of Doom's open hellscape that keep its moment-to-moment action feeling oh so satisfying. Surprisingly, Doom Eternal is almost as much a first-person platformer as it is shooter. Much of your time will be spent zipping around vertically, climbing walls, and trying to beat timed environmental parkour puzzles. This iteration sees the developers throw in double jump, climbing, and even a mid-air dash to your arsenal, giving the game a Dying Light on steroids, in hell type theme. Now this generally feels great, however some occasionally tricky jumps can get frustrating when failing them involves a whole load of backtracking just to get into a position for a second attempt. It's a minor gripe, but I did find myself rolling my eyes a few times when the excellent flow of movement will be stopped dead by an awkward set of precision perfect jumps and split-second timing windows, taking the wind out of my sails just a tad. With combat covered, let's move on to character build. Doom Eternal brings back some of the ideas from last time, but greatly expands on these with a much deeper RPG and upgrade system. Weapons can be modified with different firing modes as mentioned, but the addition of Sentinel crystals, which can now be found around the world, allow you to unlock perks for your abilities as well as increase your health and armor. Your suit can also be upgraded to buff things like weapon swap speed or frag grenade damage. My personal favourite though is runes, which similarly to the crystals can be found in the world and used for things like increasing glory kill speed or giving you greater mid-air mobility. These can be stacked with up to 3 runes and their effects can be immediately felt in the game. Being able to initiate a melee kill from 100 meters away rather than 50 felt especially satisfying. If you'd like to try out some of these in a risk-free space, then just head down to the lovingly named Demon Prison on your ship to inflict some punishment on captured demons. Speaking of your ship, you have a ship. This is your own space where you can kick back between missions while your adrenaline levels return to normal. It's essentially a hub world, and it was actually one of my favourite parts of the game. It's really quite vast, and a lot of care and attention clearly went into the detail in its creation. The Demon Slayer even has his own memorabilia room with several Easter eggs and nods to the original series, complete with a collection of guitars on the wall. Sadly, you can't play them. Now, in terms of difficulty, Doom Eternal is no cakewalk. You'll die, and you'll probably die quite a lot if you're anything like me. Enemies are relentless in their pursuit and will quickly overwhelm you if you pause for just slightly too long. There's the tank-like Mancubus, who requires a fair amount of firepower to take down, through to the new Whiplash enemy types, henceforth named because they are fast and hard to shoot, and whip-like. Bethesda encouraged us to try all difficulty types, but I must admit I was nowhere near hardcore enough with higher difficulties and found plenty of challenge on the standard difficulty mode. I prefer not to spoil the bosses here, but they were suitably hard and a lot of fun, although don't be expecting any more than a couple, as they're few and far between. However, the times when the game really stumped me were in some of its surprisingly challenging environmental puzzles. You'll have to rack your brains for everything you've learnt so far, and thoroughly examine your surroundings to crack a lot of these. Now, they aren't so difficult that you won't figure them out in 5 to 10 minutes or so, but they're hard enough to trigger a satisfying aha moment upon realizing that actually, if you just hit that thing, and move that thing, and turn that thing, and jump onto there, then you'll be able to get through. It's one of those type deals. They have a tendency to make the game a little bit stop-start at times, but it's nice to be challenged in a way that isn't just relying on your trigger finger.
My name's Mick Gordon. I am here in beautiful Austin, Texas, to record a heavy metal choir for Doom Eternal. 1, 2.
One thing Doom is known for these days, almost as much as its gunplay, is its iconic soundtrack. Mick Gordon is a man who knows his way around every inch of a synthesizer and drop-tuned electric guitar like no other. If you thought the BFG theme was as good as it gets, you are dead wrong. It's not hyperbolic to say the soundtrack to Doom Eternal is a stone-cold masterpiece of warped electronic metal excellence. Some games I like to sink back into my reclining chair and enjoy over a relaxing evening indoors, and Doom is not one of those games. Doom will make you long for the days when you were 16 again at Download Festival in the throes of a mosh pit covered in beer. What else can I say? Even if nothing about this game appeals to you, I implore you to give it a chance, if for no other reason than to hear what Mick Gordon has created. It is flawless. Before wrapping this up, I'd like to briefly touch on the game's technical performance. On both the advanced and the base consoles, Doom Eternal ran near perfect, with only a few frame drops here and there. For the most part, it's a solid 60 FPS even in moments of intense action and on-screen crowding. It'd have a reputation for making good-looking, well-optimized games, and they've stayed true to form here. I also encountered very few bugs during my time with the game. However, I did have one game-breaking bug which stumped me for nearly 2 hours, leaving me unable to progress. After reloading the level from scratch, it did resolve the issue, but it was a shame to have a near bug-free experience marred by such a severe one. Bethesda say they are aware of the bug and it'll be included in a list of day one patches, so hopefully this will be resolved by the time the game releases. In summary, Doom Eternal is a thrilling, non-stop adrenaline ride and truly a Game of the Year contender, brought to us by a studio whose pedigree in the field of first-person shooter design is second to none. It's let down only by some occasionally frustrating platforming sections, but these pale in comparison to the highs it delivers at nearly every moment of its 20-hour journey. Doom Eternal is outstanding. Hi guys, thank you for sticking around until the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed the review. We're a brand new channel here on YouTube, which means hitting that subscribe button or leaving a thumbs up really helps us out. We're going to be posting regular videos like this one, reviews, discussions, stuff like that. So if that sounds up your street, then please join the channel. You can follow us on Twitter at Invicta. You can follow me on Twitter at Genton, that's DJENTON, and until next time, peace out.